remember how it works in it wouldn't surprise me if Bloodborne does something similar, but the DLC explicitly involves time travel. So you're going back to a period before things in the game where you start got quite so fucked. But they're still pretty fucked.
Well, because we're talking about where timeline-wise and location-wise DLC packages are fitting into the main stories of the games they're a part of, this is Nick.
And I am Kyle.
And we are talking about The Big Bang Theory. Ooh, the TV show where we watch a TV show. This wasn't a TV show, it's a podcast. I can no longer tell the difference between different mediums of reality. And we talk about the show every time. We try not to, because it's not very good. Though today we did watch the final 24th episode of Season 9. And we will get to that as soon as I'm done explaining. So you go to the Hunter's Nightmare instead of the Hunter's Dream, right? That's the Bloodborne DLC.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's supposed to be in the past, but at the same time, it's covered with old hunters, the OGs that are trapped there forever. And I guess I don't know, it's one of those things where it's like, all right, well, I'm already trapped in some sort of nightmare that I can't wake up from, where I'm cursed to kill beasties forever until I, figure out the great one to swear fealty to or whatever. But then also, if I let a big scary thing grab me, I can go to the nightmare within the nightmare that's hosted by one of the specific great ones, I guess. And it also having a situation where, if you're going to finish it, it's like you have to finish that part before you go on and complete the main game. But the final boss is, 100 times harder than the main boss of the regular game. And so it's another thing where, you beat that, and then you go back and beat the regular boss, and you're like, oh, I didn't know this game was easy. The whole time up until now, I thought I was pulling teeth and beating my head against the wall, and it turns out that once I've gone through the most incredibly difficult gauntlet of the entire game, any other part of it, including the ultimate scene, is nothing by comparison. So DLC is fucking tricky. I don't know.
I mean, famously, the Lies of Pi DLC had this problem. Not for people like me who were playing it for the first time, but if you were on a New Game Plus setting and it saw that you had already beaten the game once and were now playing the DLC, whatever our algorithm they were using to calculate the base damage of your enemies and things like that was so fucked that people were getting two-shotted by random zombies in the first level. So the game developers had to be well, obviously didn't playtest that quite right, and they tweaked it considerably. The other thing that I like is because it's DLC, they just they don't really, like I said, they assume that you've leveled up and spec'd your character out how you want, so they just give you a bunch of cool overpowered shit to be again, this is your reward for kind of playing this long. Here's an ungodly, unbalanced weapon that, you have to learn a new moveset, but now you're just annihilating anything that, blinks at you wrong.
That's pretty nice. Pretty nice to have that. I feel like I didn't feel that reward as much from the Bloodborne DLC, where it was well, these weapons are great. I already had to go through the hardest part of the game to get them. And so, I guess it's cool that I can now beat the things I could already beat a little harder. But honestly, I don't know. This is one of those games where maybe a really just meaningless token of reward would be more satisfying than something actually useful. To be I already did all the hard shit. I don't need its cool blood spear anymore. Gosh dang it. These also, I did play some of this Pinocchio-inspired game that you keep bringing up, and I'm going to tell you, the second I see that they spell out the word Gemini, but they insist that I'm supposed to pronounce it Jiminy, fuck you, game, alright? I know how to read. You can't just take words and shove them without modification into your mythology. Harumph. So, I don't know. I guess that part bothered me, but it's fun to hit things still, so. You want to keep talking about more about DLC stuff, or should we talk about the episode? Because I've got more thoughts on all sorts of different games. DLC.
Yeah, DLC is tricky, but no, let's we actually, well, how about this transition? I know you normally save it toward your end, but if you like DLC, we here at the podcast offer our own DLC in the form of special bonus content, which you can access by becoming a Patreon member.
Yeah, at TBBTT, patreon.com/TBBTT, which is for the Big Bang Theory, and which I can say is definitively easier to get through than the main game content. It's almost like whoever put it together decided they want it to be a little bit less effort and more just a fun, hang-around, free-flowing thing for players such as you to engage in. So yeah, hey, we got that out of the way early. The Fire Emblem DLC sucks because they give you all the cool power stuff right at the beginning of the game, and it's like, oh, so I'm just gonna rip through everything until some arbitrary point where the difficulty catches up to me. Okay, and the story is not good.
Didn't you also say you had that problem with the Shin Megami Tensei 4 or 5, whichever one DLC?
That one is like poisoned. That's no, the whole deal with that is like it doesn't make you like, if I remember right, I don't think it makes you like super powered from the get-go. But what happens is there are these rare enemies, these Matama, which are a regular feature of the Shin Megami Tensei games.
Are those the things that look kind of like floating amulets?
Yeah, well, and I looked into them, and I guess they're, some sort of Japanese mythological representation of like different elements and emotional states. So of course they're cute little guys that you can hit with sticks in this game, and you'd see them. So I started with the DLC, and I would find them everywhere, and they'd give you, when you beat them, like tremendous amounts of like XP and other resources or whatever. Versus if you turn off the little DLC trigger that throws them in, you find one every once in a while as a huge reward. And so it's just like, I don't know, I guess the benefit is you don't have to grind if you ever feel like you did have to, but yeah, you almost have to like avoid all of the sweet tasty candy everywhere that's going to make the game so much easier for you, which is something that's what I really don't like with like, I don't know, any sort of bonus content or DLC. Is it's like, well, if I get this thing, is it going to break the whole game? Because I know the game was designed to be played a certain way that I like, and what I don't want is to get one special item that just fucks up the entire balance completely. And that's what that felt like. And the Fire Emblem weapons. Waka Waka. Gosh, I just don't want to talk about today's episode. It's not even like a bad episode on its own. It's just, for a season finale, it's kind of a nothing. But any other DLC you want to try to just like waste time with?
No, let's do that. Here's my first thought. Once again, we have an episode where the show has brings in guest stars who are just comparatively such fucking heavyweights, such heavy hitters compared to the main cast, that like every time you're seeing the normal cast interact, you're like, kind of boring. And then every time you see like the guest stars interacting with each other, you're like, this is so much funnier. Why is this not the whole show? Like, how do I like shift into an alternate universe where the show is about these people starring these actors who are all doing a much better job?
Yeah, and so we're officially on the record discussing the episode officially titled Season 9, Episode 24, The Convergence, which...
Oh, oh, man. That just leaves a bad taste in my mouth.
No, it's not good. And let's see, we got May 12, 2016 episode. We got the official, unofficial fan wiki, which reads, Leonard and Penny plan to get remarried in front of their friends. Leonard's family and Penny's family. Well, if they're your friends, they're not really family. They're your family. Anyway, invited guest Sheldon's mother and Leonard's father find something in common. Mutual disdain over Leonard's mother. And Howard gets an email from the United States Air Force about his invention inflaming his paranoia. So, yeah, I guess I'll start with the B plot just to kind of discard it, which is, I don't feel like this needed to be a bigger part of the episode, but as far as the season went, I guess they're trying to conclude it, which is, I mean, the focus is all about the parents' family, whatever, wanting to actually be there for some sort of ceremony recognizing the marriage of the lovely Penny and Leonard. But the B plot is trying to wrap up what the season's actually been about the whole time, which is that the nerds conceptualized and have now invented, have actually created a prototype for this some sort of quantum tracking system they're using or whatever. And the second, and this is the joke, but the second that Wolowitz and Raj get it running, they get an email from the Air Force that's like, hey, we just happened to notice that you guys were working on some sort of cool, weird quantum physics tracking thing. Just we want to meet us as soon as you can. And I'm kind of glad the episode didn't go the direction where I thought Bernadette was taking it, which was Wolowitz is immediately gone into paranoia and is like, holy shit, we have to respond to them. How naive was I to think the military wouldn't be interested? And now, if we don't play ball, they're going to disappear us. Which, maybe an overreaction, sure, but I mean, I think he's right to be freaked out that, yeah, the second he turns on his new mystery machine, the government is trying to get him. Raj, to his credit, is 100% on Wolowitz's side, but much more cavalier about it. He's like, well, yeah, of course they're watching us. That's what they always do. By the way, I love the American government. I don't know. And where I thought was going to happen is Bernadette keeps trying to tell Wolowitz he's overreacting. And the later we got into the episode, the more I was like, this is a psyop, isn't it? This is America's biggest mainstream television comedy is going to tell us that any paranoia we have about Big Brother or the government looking at us, this is completely fictional and shouldn't even be taken seriously. It dials back from that. Mostly because in a joke that I think doesn't make any sense, when they are all at the end of the episode, Wolowitz, Raj, and Bernadette included, meeting at the big dinner for the families to get together for this ceremony thing or whatever, the Bernadette and co. realize they're being followed, and they're like, it's the government. When, for some reason, I guess they cannot see it as a recognizable car with their friends in it behind them. And then that is what makes Bernadette extra paranoid, and she gets on board with, hey, the government's after us. And I guess that's your big conclusion to the actual plot of the season, is they make this incredible thing, they go all in on it, they have all these ups and downs trying to figure out, hey, how are we actually going to divide up the credit? And, we realize that if we want to do this the way we want, we're not going to get the money or recognition that would come with it traditionally, and so we might have to decide who's going to be our foreperson, who's going to just accept the money deal. Oh, and what if the applications of it, we're doing this because we're nerds, but do you think all of that leads up to Wolowitz doing a roadside DUI test, screaming, "The government is after me," is a throwaway joke. I don't know. I bet the invention's not coming back. We'll see. But that wrapped it up. And while we're at it, Raj's two girlfriends make no appearance, so they're both dead in a trunk somewhere. I don't know. You want to talk about the A-plot at all with the families, or should I just keep trucking here?
I mean, let's see. Is there any... I mean, first off, again, it's weird that this has become Wolowitz's... I mean, I get that he's the mechanical engineer, but this whole thing started because it was Sheldon and Leonard's idea, and they're not present for I guess what I'm saying is just the fact that Wolowitz is and Raj and Bernadette are the only ones who have any interaction in this whole government conspiracy side of things just completely shunts, like emphasizes the fact that they are not actually like part of the main crew or story in some way, at least for right now.
Off the cuff theory here. I wonder if at one point either they felt like or they got feedback that part, like that being the thrust of the season wasn't working out and that they downgraded it. Because that's also true. It's like I kind of took it for granted that for this being such like a monumental moment that, yeah, Leonard and Sheldon aren't even there is weird. And I think they turned it into a throwaway plot. And the only reason I suspect this is based on, again, completely baseless, but I think well-founded paranoia, is one of the last seasons of Curb Your Enthusiasm. I think they were trying to do a Larry David is, not genuinely, but is misinterpreted as some sort of sex creep plot, because they have an episode where he's trying to get like cocktail weenies off of a catering tray from this woman, and he follows her around in a way that makes everyone think that he's some sort of creepy perv that's like, been leering at her all night. And he gets a new assistant also that like he just like grabs her shirt to wipe his glasses, and he's like, and then she's like, "Oh, you're a gross grabber guy, creep." And there's a joke about it where he goes on a date with a woman, and this is all very early in the season, and he jokes about these misunderstandings with her, and he's like, "All right, well, I'm going to open up my phone, and before we begin making out, if we can both just look at the phone and say that we consent to this, that'd be really great down the line." None of that ever comes up again. and the plot goes in a completely different direction, and I think it's because at some point they were like,
we can't land this plane.
Exactly, like, this is kind of gross, right? Like, how are we going to, like... And it was of the moment, like there's jokes about how much Jeff looks like Harvey Weinstein. And so I think they really wanted to go for it. And then, yeah, I think you're right, where they were like, God, we bit off more than we can chew. Let's have them have a really intense rivalry with Mocha Joe, the coffee guy, and forget about all the sex creep stuff. And actually, like, write the one female character out until the finale so she can come back just for her, like, just desserts or whatever. Anyway, that was a long way of saying, I think that happens, and I think it happened here, because it was, like, such a huge thing, and, they didn't have to do the delicate thing of trying to take, like, a hairy situation and turn it into, like, a fun misunderstanding. But, yeah, like, they just let it go. And then I guess to shift into the other plot, which is, technically they spend more time on it, but it's way less substantial, is, yeah, I guess the family all wants to just be there and celebrate and be acknowledged for this wedding, that they all feel, somewhat justifiably hurt that Leonard and Penny eloped, and everyone found out after the fact. And it's kind of silly, and I thought this was going to come up, is like, that was done out of design because no one wanted to deal with the family. And now Penny is so eager to get Leonard's mom's approval that she's forcing all these people back together for the thing they didn't want to do. And predictably, when the parents are getting together, they all hate each other because Leonard's mom, Christine Baranski, icon, and then Laurie Metcalf, Sheldon's mom, while they've met in accord, they are still religiously at odds and can't stand each other. And like you said, Heavy Hitter, who I did not recognize, but got a big cheer as soon as he came on.
You didn't recognize Judd Hirsch?
I don't even know that name. No, I looked him up as we were starting.
Academy Award winner Judd Hirsch?
I don't know.
Everything from, like, Ordinary People to Independence Day, Judd Hirsch, you don't recognize?
Nope.
He was in Taxi? That one I just looked up. But he is basically... on the one hand, he is just like, when a movie or a TV show needs an older Jewish man, he's your go-to guy if you can get him.
Well, I have to note on that. It's funny, like with his accent, he's so obviously an older Jewish man that I like stop for a moment and I'm like, I know his name is Hofstetter the whole time, but I never thought of him as particularly Jewish. But now yeah, Leonard's obviously part of a strong Jewish tradition that he's ignoring. But yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, but also he's he's a very funny actor, but he's also, a brilliant actor. He like I said, I think he won I could be wrong, but I think he won an Academy Award for this movie he was in called Ordinary People, where he plays basically he basically plays Robin Williams' character in Good Will Hunting like 15 years before that movie came out, and arguably with like more nuance and empathy. So he's great. He's a great guy. I'm a big fan.
Well, and I feel bad for bringing this up as a counterexample. Not like that Blake Anderson guy is ever going to hear this, but there's just no good reason for me to shit on a comedian as much as I have. I'm going to do it a little more though. I think because he was a cameo in, I think, the most recent episode or the one right before that, and he's someone who I've seen in comedy stuff, but I just don't think is funny. And I just don't think has whatever the comic charm is, no matter how many funny situations. Like, I think he's dependent on being in a funny situation, and maybe he's like a good writer. But then as far as like being a comedic personality, I think he's like old stale bread. But then not knowing anything about Judge Hirsch, not recognizing him, and even like being confused by the audience reaction to him, he's just so naturally funny and charming. Like, you can't fucking deny it. And he immediately also won me over. And my favorite part of this, which I think would be better if it were like not a final episode, but like a really early season thing, is he ends up having in common with Sheldon's mom how much they both don't get along with Leonard's mom. And they end up leaving the big wedding dinner early to like go off and get a drink together. I'm interested in that. I want to see how Sheldon and Leonard are going to like handle the reality that they are becoming like actual, like real, legally family, like in-laws.
They're in a stepbrother situation now.
Yeah. And I think like that would be great. And that's like where the entire season that had nothing to do with this at all ends off, is like, oh, this character we just introduced really likes this other character, and we want to see what they're up to, and all the other shit we did, we're just gonna like politely discard. Like, again, Raj's girlfriends not mentioned. They were supposed to be a big thing, and they just disappear. I bet Lauren Lapkus is gonna show up next season to like clear all that air. It's like, for something I wasn't invested in to begin with, it feels like it just threw away everything. And I know that like part of the sitcoms is things have to reset to status quo, but like that they can't start the next season like, hey, we're still the same nerdy guys, but isn't it cool that we have this new thing to do this season based off the big invention that we successfully like put together? And instead I've just got fingers crossed, probably naively, that Judd Hirsch is going to keep showing up and banging Laurie Metcalf. That's the show I want to see.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, if I could watch a show that was about their, like, trying to make, like, even, like, there's more comedic potential in just their relationship, right? Because he's, like, a hardcore agnostic anthropologist, academic, who is now in a relationship with, like, a young earth creationist from Texas.
Well,
and
that
also his ex-wife is this crazy, acerbic, bitter psychologist who's, who can also be in from time to time.
Well, and that, like, I think the very clear distinction they tried to make between the two moms is Leonard's mom, is very cold, calculating, and she is supposed to, like, represent the inhuman objective glare of the scientist, and how that wasn't, like, a great, parent for Leonard. And then the extreme opposite, we got Sheldon's mom, who they don't really suggest she's not intelligent except for her intense religious belief, but they do really make it clear that her religion comes before anything else, factual, scientific, knowledgeable, whatever. And so they try to present it as like a real, like, science versus like religion thing. And that's another thing I think is great is that, yeah, this character shows up and he's like, well, I'm a scientist too, but I don't know, there's a lot of cool shit that we can still talk about, right? It's like, yeah, actually, yeah. And, yeah, it just works. And, not like I like Christine Baranski any less, because her being so cold is like part of what makes her so great, but I don't know. It's like,
I actually think I think the best, I don't know if it got a laugh from you because it's kind of a weird, screenwritery joke, but I thought she got the best line in this episode, which is she's clearly defensive about being in the same room as this man who divorced her for being like cold and unloving, and he stands up and he's giving a toast to Leonard, and he's like, I just want to say, Leonard, congratulations on finding such a warm, loving, compassionate partner for yourself. And she just goes, what is it you're trying to say to me? Like,
yeah,
she can't even hear his compliment for a penny without being like, oh, this is a subtle pronged attack at me, which it may very well be, but just the fact that she immediately went there, I was like, this is, again, better writing than we normally get on this show.
Well, and now I'm thinking about it, like, there's a friend who, like, I basically no longer a friend, specifically because you would say things like Leonard's dad might say, and she would have the reactions like Leonard's mom might have. And so I've experienced this in reality where someone can say something totally inane or even complimentary, and it's like, oh, that must be in contrast to me being shitty. That's what this is really about. And so, yeah, for her to, like, again, so cold and calculating, but at the same time, obviously is, like, so insecure and has that, like, raw nerve there. There's have to admit it, credit where credit's due. There's a different line also involving her that I think was my favorite, where fighting with Sheldon's mom, Sheldon says something, her mom says something about, oh, blah, 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 from the Bible. Leonard's mom says, why don't you try reading a different book sometime? To which Sheldon's mom says, when God writes one, I will. And I was like, you know what? This is, everyone here knows that you're an insane zealot, but you're pretty fucking good at being an insane zealot. So, yeah, well, you said it right at the get-go, and the thing is like, hey, we're having some good times with this one, and none of it has to do with the main cast.
No, that's what was so interesting but so horrifying. It's just like, it feels like it could be the pilot for another better show, which is, you could see a show starting with like a widowed mom and a divorced dad meeting at their, over at a family wedding and hitting it off, and that just sets everything in motion. And it's like, I would much rather watch that show.
Yeah.
Can you believe people occasionally accuse us of being too hard and too negative on The Big Bang Theory?
No, we love it when people who aren't part of the show are there.
Yeah.
Like, that's Edward James almost shows up, and we're having a red banner day. But he's only in one episode, So what do you do? I don't know. I'm trying to think about, like, whether it's some sort of, like, economy of writing or, like, a literal economy of guest stars thing where they're like, yeah, we'll play it real safe and easy for most of the season. We don't want people to laugh too much, but then we've got these heavy hitters we can bring in to really, not necessarily hit a home run, but you're going to get a guy on second base. And it's just, I don't know. I also wonder too, which is impossible to know now, because we've now just finished the 9th season. There's only 3 seasons left. We shouldn't be doing this. I can't believe we're
so deep in the weeds. And again, just for the reminders of the viewers at home, we watch one of these episodes approximately every 2 weeks, and there are 26 episodes in a season, which means it takes us on average about 52 weeks to get through a season, which means every season takes up approximately, give or take, 1 year of our lives. So we are now 9 years deep into this fucking thing.
Yeah, we've thrown ourselves into some sort of relativity bending mechanism where the amount of time we spend watching The Big Bang Theory in real time is catching us up at the same rate as it took other people a literal... Well, no, we're watching at the same rate it came out, basically, and we're consistently 10 years behind the present day. But it's fun. It's fun. But that said, like... I don't know. Like, I talk more about, like, what to expect next episode, but, like... Or next season, I mean. But... It feels like a real flop without a setup, which might even be better. Because, like, I think back about whenever it was that, Sheldon for the last episode got on the train to nowhere, and then next season beginning is like, what, he made it like one stop away or didn't even leave the station because he lost something, and that feels like kind of a sucker punch. You don't even spend the time trying to figure out how to incorporate Sheldon back into the show. This sets my expectations even lower. Maybe that's good. Now, if either the Sheldon's mom or Leonard's dad ever show up again, I'm gonna clap. I've been trained to accept the filth and to be happy with the occasional little beat of like fresh fruit that's thrown into my pig slop. How do you feel about that?
Oh boy. I mean, I am grateful for 9 years spent doing anything that gives me an excuse to hang out with you.
Aww.
Yeah, the show...
We could have been online gaming.
That's right. We could have just been... God, imagine how powerful our Final Fantasy 14 characters would be at this point if we had devoted as much time.
God, Kyle, that's a life wasted, is looking back and being like, wouldn't it be great if we were two guys hanging out in the imaginary Final Fantasy world, and the whole thing was us still just trying to, like, work our jobs and not knowing how to interact with the bunny-eared people and the cute little guys, and only going on missions where we can kind of complain about the substance of it, but participating in it in any way, because it's what we do. Different paths. Anywho. Yeah, no, again... This is a friendship experiment more than any sort of dedication to the show. And I think we've proven that we've got that for us.
The friendship experiment, which ironically probably is just an episode title of this show, if we go back and look.
Yeah, or if not, it'll be the first episode of our 13th season that we begin writing unofficially.
Oh, that's right. I forgot that was something we talked about.
Oh, so did I. I guess I had the idea again, and it must be a good one. But yeah, except our version will be weird because it will be only people who have guested or cameoed on the show, and then the actual cameo or guest appearances will be from people who are actually on the cast, which will be difficult because there's going to be a lot of unauthorized ADR back shots of Edward James Olmos getting into hairy situations. But whatever,
Also James Earl Jones, which is a little ethically dicey, but
Did I say that both times? I meant to say James Earl Jones the whole time.
Oh, really? You kept saying Edward James Olmos, and I was like, I don't remember.
No, he's not. No, those two names always throw me off.
I don't remember the Battlestar Galactica guy being on this show, but he probably was at some point.
If he ever showed up, that'd be great. No, I meant to say James Earl Jones, because that to me is still like the height. Gosh, almost of like any guest appearance on anything. He was just a lightning rod of charm and exuberance, and like, I wonder too if like. Just knowing what it was he was I just have such fond memories of that one guest appearance.
You like Star Wars? Guess what? I love Star Wars.
Cool guy.
Okay.
Well, I don't know. That said, we're done with this fucking season and this magic machine that doesn't matter, and the two ladies that don't matter, and the reason Stuart has a great episode and deserves his own show. So we'll see what happens next season. In the meantime, our lives continue normally. We should talk about the thing we've consumed that we actually enjoy. I've got a real mixed bag queued up that took me a bit to think of, but do you want to go first or shall I?
I'll go first. Because first off, I am replaying the everybody's talking about Hades 2, but guess who never beat Hades and is now going back through it? This guy, me, Kyle. And still a pretty good game. I liked it before. I just wasn't in a place where I could... I think I misunderstood what that game was about, which is ironic because it's very clear about it. Which is the first time I played it, I was just doing everything I could to make it to, like, through the final boss. And I was like, I can't wait to beat the final boss so this game is over. And then, as much as I'm enjoying it, and I beat the final boss and it was like, great, now the game starts. And I was like, wait, what? And so I was like, I'm not psychologically prepared for this. I walked away from it. I have come back now. It deserves all its accolades. It's a pretty good game.
Yeah, no, I've also never like finished that game, and I still should. Or I know I've brought it up before, but it's also like the reason I don't think I'll ever want to play another like early access game again. Is that Hades, because I love the studio Supergiant Games, and so when it went into early access, I was like, hell yeah, I'll do this. I'd love to be a guinea pig to play this. And that was great, but it's also like by the time the real game came out, I'd already played it so much, and I just burnt myself out on it too soon. And now I think it's been long enough that I could go back and maybe like make a real go for it. But honestly, that's like my only complaint. That's like, I can't say there's anything wrong with the game at all. I played it too much to, enjoy it by the time it was finished, and now I haven't actually finished the real game. So, I'm curious about the new one, but it's not getting as positive of a reception. But I think part of the reason Hades is so great is it really narratively rationalizes a roguelite, where it's like, well, not only is the grind the way to get the things you need, but over time, it's just like, well, no, this is the grind. That's what your life is. And the better you accept that, the more
It's like, meet your friend Sisyphus. This is going to feel like an on-the-nose metaphor, but it's actually, the more you talk, you realize it's pretty clever how they weave in the actual guy to this entire existential journey that you're on. Several people have said Hades 2, from a gameplay perspective, is a better game. They're just not quite sure it's as fun a story. For the reason that you just said. I think the other thing I appreciate about it, and again, in the first Hades, it's clear there's so many things that clearly only exist because they had too many ideas and couldn't figure out how to fit them all in. And then finally they were like, let's just throw in all of them. And maybe some of them people will like never see, but that's okay. It's like, we're going to throw in like every line of dialogue, every optional boss type, everything. Like, even I feel like the Fury, it's like the first time you fight a Fury, you're like, well, this is pretty cool. And then there are like two other versions of that. And my guess is they just like kept coming up with like different versions of like how that boss could work. And they're like, what if we just use all of them? And then what if we make part of the game their relationship with each other? And I was like, that's pretty clever. Anyway, that wasn't even my thing. My actual thing.
Oh!
That's one of my two things. My other thing is just as we were just now talking about how it would be nice if the new season didn't reset everything. It got me thinking about, there are a couple of sitcoms I think that have actually like changed the stakes season to season. Some of them very dramatically. Archer famously, as an animated sitcom, like reinvented its premise a couple of times over the course of the show. But I think the show that was better at it than any show I ever saw was Venture Brothers.
Yes.
Many, many things you could say that are good about that show. But just one among many is that, like, for a show that had a very strong central conceit where they could have just, like, stuck with the original joke of the show forever and never changed anything about it, they actually wildly altered like the dynamics of all the major characters multiple times over the course of that show, which really creates a sense of like progression and growth for everyone as you watch it. Because like there comes a point like in season 4 where like one of the main characters like goes off on his own journey and he's just like not for like 2 seasons he's just not like a member of the main cast, and they, their fortunes shift radically a couple of different times so that they go from like broke to rich to broke again, and the same with the bad guys. And it's like, man, that was really good. Why can't more shows do that?
Yeah, I remember years ago, and I don't know who specifically it was working on the show that said it, but even before they started doing the big like location and time changes, like the time period it originally was set in wasn't clear because it felt like all 60s spy stuff, but that also had like a lot of modern day realities in it. And someone was asking about, when does it actually take place? And this guy that works on it saying, oh, well, whenever's funniest. And that just being like, no, we're not dedicated to, this period, this idea, whatever. Like, we just want to, do whatever makes the joke work. And I like that. And that, also that, like doing these different permutations of the cast, that they keep it fresh. That, because that's something too, that on this, like, these dynamics that are set up by the end of this season, that'd be great if, like, next season they do their soft reset, they have their new, focus of it, but now we have more characters with more, like, complicated interpersonal connections to play with. Yeah, no, I wish there were more of that. Good Archer, bad BBT. Anything else you want to say about Archer?
Or Venture Bros. No, I'm good.
Oh, sorry, I went backwards. You went to Venture Bros. I totally spaced out. I was so focused on the Archer part. Oh my god. Yeah, no, Venture Bros actually does better with its characters in turn, because it doesn't even just do it to be silly. It, makes them actually have real emotional connections and develop as real people. And the little brothers by the end are all grown up.
Yeah. But no, you're absolutely, like, Archer fame. It's like, I remember the first time I was watching that and being like, wait, they have cell phones, but also they're fighting the KGB.
Yeah.
Like, how does that work? And I appreciate their commitment to, like, never explaining that.
Well, accidental connection here, because like I said, I somehow just like started zoning out and focused on the Archer part, but that is also a great thing about Venture Brothers, is that it's like it starts very much as a 60s Johnny Quest parody, of all these people who are just like burnouts from basically a TV genre that doesn't exist anymore. And they don't swear fealty to that premise.
No.
Yeah, good show. All right, well, I'm going to recommend my stuff, but neither nearly as positively as yours, which is why I'm doing kind of a mixed bag. The first thing isn't even a recommendation, honestly. It's almost more of a complaint, which is I finally broke down, because it was on sale, I bought Metaphor Re Fantasio. Have you played that at all yet, Kyle?
No, I have not. It didn't look interesting to me in the slightest.
Shin Megami Tensei Final Fantasy Edition. Yeah, I don't know. I'm playing it, and I wanted to play it because it looked beautiful, but Kyle, this is like the Persona SMT guys that just slapped their coat of paint on, and I mean like Final Fantasy. It has a job system now. I keep thinking like the fact that like Xenoblade Chronicles and that the Shin Megami Tensei guys are doing this now, like, tells me that like Square Enix has just given up on anything, because they should be suing these other companies for just like straight up lifting these things. Not that I want that, but again, it's just like, oh look, it's another different big RPG company that I like and respect making a Final Fantasy game. And so I don't know, I'm gonna keep at it, because it's still, the fundamentals are great, but with this one more than any of them, it's like feels very reiterative. The other thing, again, I'll recommend, but still I can't do it with like my whole heart, is this last week I saw I think it was 1985 anime film Angel's Egg. Have you ever seen?
Yeah. No, I haven't heard. It's just like because of the people involved with it, it's like
Yes.
famous, but also, to my understanding, doesn't really have a plot.
Impermeable. No. This is a weird one too, where the main reason I want to see it is because, you see the big names. The one I recognize is Yoshitaka Amano, who was at the start the main. I don't know about just like the main artist, I guess, for the Final Fantasy series. All the old artwork and character designs and everything came straight out of him, and his art style is beautiful, and it doesn't translate directly to this animation, but it still does look great. But that said, the thing, here's the reasons I would recommend it without reservation. It's a very beautiful looking movie. It's very haunting and mysterious, and looking at it just as I started to think it was almost like a collection of images that are just set to a movie. That what you're really looking at are a bunch of beautiful drawings and set pieces that are connected by some sort of narrative and animation.
So sort of like a heavy metal Asian edition.
Oh, I wish. I hate to say it, that heavy metal makes so much more sense than this. Because this is some sort of weird Christian allegory thing. And some parts of it are obvious, where one of your main characters just starts telling the whole story of Noah out of fucking nowhere, and your other character sits there and listens as if either of them had any reason to know what Christianity is or have spoken to each other about anything at all before. So that's weird. But that's also, I think, kind of what makes it interesting is in my development as a movie appreciator, I've gone from, the young, completely naive, confused person who, sees movies as very literal and oh, well, this is the plot and it needs to make sense, to, broadening out to accepting and understanding things that are more vibey, or that will have, themes or ideas that they're trying to present that don't need to adhere to any sort of literal reality or don't make sense in some way, all of that. And then seeing this and still being God damn, this one is a real thinker. And having also the idea that, it might not even be that deep. It might be that it's just narratively not that complex or well put together. But just not knowing, I think, is what makes it fun. Because I guess, to describe the movie at all, double checking, was 1985. Apparently was not a success when it was initially released, but people look back on it as a, just kind of this confusing, mysterious little thing. But the plot, such as there is one, is a girl who, I can't tell if the idea was to make her appear pregnant, which is confusing, because you're well, she's got a big round belly, but she looks way too young to actually be a girl. Is this some sort of weird fantasy thing? But later it turns out, I don't think this is a huge spoiler, that the big, huge belly is an egg she's carrying with her everywhere. That may be, but is not necessarily, the titular angel's egg. But that's all her character is. She doesn't have a name. She is the girl with the egg that protects the egg that wants it to hatch. And she meets man, boy, looks like a late teen soldier carrying some sort of thing that it's also fucking ambiguous. It's it must be a weapon if he were to ever use it as a weapon, save for the one time he does and not the way you expect. His motivations are less clear. He hops off of a thing that's probably a tank going to somewhere, and he's just hey, what's up with that egg? Really interested in that egg. You ought to let me see that egg. And so the movie is them walking around in what seems to be a mostly abandoned European village. and some weird shit happens. I don't know. The shadows of gigantic fish start appearing, swimming across the buildings. And out come, dozens and dozens of men / soldiers who are trying to spear the shadows by throwing their harpoons into the walls of the buildings. I bet that has some sort of real cool biblical implications based on the whole Noah and the flood thing. But it's also just fun to watch a bunch of guys throw harpoons at shadowfish and wonder what the fuck is happening. So, man, and that's more than I thought I could say about it.
Yes, this sounds like the kind of movie that's bait for pretentious people like me, where I would watch this and then obnoxiously pretend to have understood it all in the first viewing and then just bullshit my way through it every single time afterwards.
I think it's exactly that kind of movie, because this is one where I think I definitely would have wanted, not out of pretentious reasons, but just to not feel like a dummy, to be like, oh yeah, I know why all those eggs showed up in the water. Yeah, I got it. But I'm in a place in my life where I can be like, I'm pretty smart. I know a lot of shit. I don't know exactly what the hell just happened there. And I don't think it's my fault. But it's also, like I also say, it's not negative. It's like if you go in expecting like a narrative and plot in the beginning and an ending that all makes sense, good fucking luck, buddy. But if you want like it to see beautiful animation in mysterious settings and a lot of stuff that is interesting and confusing and very much open to interpretation, hell yeah. So I guess, yeah, my two recommendations are one thing that I'm not sure I can recommend because it's become too predictable and formulaic, and another thing that I'm recommending because it's so non-predictable and formulaic that I don't think I even understand it. So, excuse me. Well, I guess I'm going to cross my fingers that this next season is a real Angel's Egg situation, or, maybe even more, this would make more sense, a fire walk with me situation. And you're like, I kind of feel like maybe I
got the vibe of it.
Yeah. That definitely took place in a kind of building where those people would be, but none of the people in that building were doing things that I think they're supposed to do. David Bowie was there for a while. Maybe David Bowie will show up next season. I'm going to hope against hope that happens. And if it doesn't happen, I'm going to physically injure myself every episode where it doesn't happen. That's my promise to you, dear listener.
That seems a little intense, but I'm down. I support this. It would be even funnier if he appears specifically as the character from the Venture Brothers. That is to say, a shape-shifting, demonic antagonist who may or may not be David Bowie, or may just be someone pretending to be David Bowie, but who is definitely the head of an evil organization of worldwide criminals.
Yes, and his diamond dogs, Iggy Pop and Klaus Nomi. Also look into Klaus Nomi, why don't you? I don't think I would have any idea who Klaus Nomi was if it weren't for the Venture Brothers, and that's a fun road to go down.
Yeah, watch the YouTube video of him doing Total Eclipse live. That is a fucking like heroin shot of a performance that he gives.
Yeah, he's one of those guys who I was definitely too young to have like cultural crossover with, but I'd still see on like TV sometimes, and I'd always be like, the fuck is up with that weird freaky French clown or whatever it is? Turns out a lot. So man, that was a bad way to try to wrap up the episode. Kyle, any final words?
No.
Perfect. Bye.